So things that we can be thinking about in terms of skills related to independent play or leisure. Things like just using your items, your toys, your whatever appropriately, not throwing things around, cleaning them up when you're done, soothing yourself, right? Just like how to sort of get yourself on task and doing something as opposed to having to have someone come and do it for you. Managing your time, being independent, choosing an activity without needing support to do so, and choosing a safe activity, right? Not, jumping off the stair landing or something like that. Cognitive skills, lots of cognitive skills that we can address with toys and other kinds of leisure items, absolutely. Preparing what you need. So if you want to make Lego, you need to get your Lego. If you've got maybe a Lego book of designs to make, you need to get that and choose a design and get your materials set up. And then cleaning up when you're done. Absolutely. Pretend play, right? Being able to do sort of pretend kinds of tasks, managing your time, being safe alone in your room, not doing dangerous things. Independent choice making, right? Actually going, hey, I'm here. I've got time to myself. I need something to do. What could I do? What are my options? I'll choose this and do it. So those kinds of things, right? I'm working with a young man right now. He's a young adult. And he has significant difficulty making those kinds of choices for himself. So when he has leisure time, he kind of just waits for somebody to tell him what to do for leisure activities, as opposed to kind of going, okay, here are my options, I will choose and go. So that's a really important skill. Being able to plan your free time. For older individuals, maybe learning some sort of hobby type skill, some other kind of leisure skill, a musical instrument or something like that. So really kind of starting to think about, as individuals get a bit older, again, are there some activities or items that are interesting to your child, but are perhaps a bit more age appropriate and might even provide opportunities for connections with other individuals as well, right? That could later become shared activities, okay? Developing hobbies, absolutely, because the way that we develop hobbies is by trying different things. Time management, cleaning up, absolutely. Using a timer. So if you're using a timer to show your kid how long they need to play independently, knowing what that means and knowing to basically amuse themselves until it's time. Washing hands again, right? You can tell that we're doing an awful lot of thinking about washing hands these days, for sure, absolutely. Excellent, right? Enjoying your own company. That's the other thing, right? Enjoying doing something by yourself. And I mentioned this yesterday, I think, how there's sort of this misconception that, all kids with autism prefer to be alone, that's kind of like an autism thing. And it's not. Some individuals with autism like to be alone, and others like to kind of be glommed onto mom and dad 100% of the time. And mom and dad are starting to feel it after a while where they'd like a little bit of a break, right? So for some individuals, it's about teaching them to disengage from mom and dad and be able to enjoy some alone time, right? And so that's going to be an important skill to teach as well. Excellent. Okay, I'm seeing some themes with meal preparation around things like safety. Absolutely. Kitchen safety is really important. Not cutting yourself with knives, not burning yourself on the stove, those kinds of things, very important. First then, right? So kind of what do you have to do first and then what's the next thing? So sort of following a sequence. Meal planning, absolutely. Meal planning is a really important skill. Measuring, all of the math skills that you can bring in. So if the school is saying your kid needs to work on developing math skills, and the thought of sitting down at a table and doing math worksheets horrifies you, right? Cook with your child instead, because you can hit a whole bunch of math skills doing cooking and baking, right? You can be doing counting. You can do things like bigger, smaller, which also falls under the math umbrella. You can work on fractions, all kinds of things that you can work on in terms of math skills in the kitchen. Lots of fine motor skill development, cutting, ripping lettuce, opening packages, opening and closing jars. So all of those fine motor skills, making a grocery list, and we're going to come to shopping very soon. Stove safety, absolutely. following instructions. And so think about this in terms of communication. Following instructions that mom or dad tell you, or following written instructions, or both, right? So lots of different kinds of instructions and communication skills you can work on. Attention to detail. Measuring is really important when you're cooking. If you don't measure something correctly, it's not going to come out right. And so really paying attention to what you're doing. All of the dexterity kinds of skills, that's important. Being able to just carry things in the kitchen safely, like knowing, how should you stuff everything in your hands and carry, or should you take one at a time? Food safety in general, that's an important thing. Foods that should be refrigerated and frozen and storing food safely, absolutely. Again, thinking about nutrition and making healthy choices and kind of the food science aspect of things. All kinds of self-help skills that you can address. Food groups, right? So again, you can kind of think science and health education, coordination skills, sort of kitchen rules, like you don't chop vegetables on the counter, you use a cutting board, those kinds of things. Waiting for your turn, all kinds of things that you can be working on. Sharing, so if you've got more than one child, sharing tasks, right? Siblings get turns. Portioning, again, washing hands and proper food handling, all really important things. Excellent, excellent. We've got lots of chores, so clearly you guys are thinking about all of the things that you have to do and probably things that you might be doing on a Saturday, so thank you for putting those on hold to be with us today. But things like laundry, sweeping, mopping, dusting, taking the garbage out, all of those kinds of tasks, absolutely. And so then if we think about even one of those tasks, what are some of these skills that we could teach in there, right? So again, thinking about things like motor skills and coordination. Have you ever given your child or your young adult the vacuum cleaner and told them to go at it, and the next thing you know, they're running into everything, right? So being able to sort of plan the space and sort of be careful in terms of the use of the vacuum so that we're not running into things and making marks all over the walls. Putting things away, sort of organizing your cleaning. So thinking about, what are the cleaning tasks that need to happen and sort of scheduling those out. When am I going to do this cleaning? In what order will I do things? Absolutely. Gathering the necessary materials. So making sure that you have what you need to clean before you start cleaning. Things like learning how to load the dishwasher. Some of us are very particular about how the dishwasher is loaded. I am the very particular one. And I will often go back to the dishwasher in my house and reload, right? Some of you do the same. Others of you don't care, right? But there's usually one person in the household who is the picky dishwasher person. So if you get in there now, if you're the picky dishwasher person, you can teach your kid to be just as picky as you. Thinking about, what the end result should look like. So if I'm dusting, what should it look like when I'm done? Like, what does quality dusting look like? When I'm vacuuming, what should it look like when I'm done? What's the difference, right? Because a lot of times individuals will kind of go through the motions, but they don't realize what the end result is supposed to look like. And so they kind of go through the motions, but they don't do a very good job, right? There are spouses that are like that too, I suspect. Yes, okay. Tasks like folding the laundry, safety, absolutely. So thinking about chemicals. There are lots of accidents that happen around people combining cleaners that they shouldn't combine or using things for a task that they shouldn't use them for. So thinking about that kind of stuff, absolutely. Attention to detail, for sure. Being able to plan and sequence things, scheduling those things, putting things on the calendar, the weekly calendar. Responsibility, absolutely. Time management skills, for sure. Lots of different kinds of skills, again, that we can work on. And people have lots of ideas about how to start. And we're going to get to the hows soon. People are always excited to get to the hows. So absolutely, we're going to talk about how do we sort of move? Like, for example, start with learning to take care of your bedroom, and then we move out to the broader house, for sure. Okay, but all of those kinds of skills like planning, organizing things, making sure you have the materials, Motor skills, both fine motor skills and gross motor skills. Communication, following instructions, asking for necessary supplies, asking for help. That's an important thing. So lots of skills that we can work on around home upkeep. Nobody mentioned outside the home kinds of chores, but think about things like lawn care and gardening and things like that. So there's a whole nother set of skills that we can be focusing on in sort of outdoor tasks as well. Let's look at some of the laundry-related ideas. So I see things around the amount of soap again, right? This is a famous thing. Anybody ever had the overflowing dishwasher or washing machine? Yes. So certainly that's an important thing. Measuring comes into play again. Following instructions, whether they be verbal and or written, right? So initially you're probably telling your child what to do, but maybe eventually you move them to a written set of instructions for sure. Folding skills and sort of the coordination that's involved, right? Because you've got to fold things. Sorting, that's an important thing. Although I did say once to my students at CapU when we were talking about teaching these kinds of skills and I mentioned sorting laundry and they all looked at me like I was from another planet. And apparently university students are not sorting their laundry. They're just shoving it all in. So I don't know, those of you who like me feel sorting laundry is important, maybe we should pay attention to teaching those things because they're not doing it. Laundry symbol recognition, absolutely, right? What clothes can you put in the washer? Which ones should you hand wash? Are there things that are hang to dry? All of that kind of stuff is really important. The hygiene-related things, being able to discriminate dirty clothes versus clean clothes, for sure. Fabrics, knowing different fabrics because you might wash differently based on the kind of fabric, definitely. Cold versus hot wash, so being able to set the washing machine correctly based on what you want to do. How to hang clothes, that's part of it, the whole job too, right? Putting things away on hangers, my goodness. Time management, matching socks. So even if you've got a little one, let's say that you've got a little kid and your child's working in a home program with BIs and maybe matching is one of the targets that they're working on during BI sessions, you can target matching when you're doing laundry, right? So it's exactly the same kind of skill, just with different materials. So certainly you could work on something like that. Sequencing, right? Because you got to do things in a certain order. Chemical safety, right? Like don't eat the Tide Pods. Apparently that became a thing for a while where people were eating Tide Pods. Correct use of the machines, machine maintenance, cleaning the machine, the lint trap, cleaning that out, that's going to be really important. Paying attention to when things are done, right? Some washing machines don't have little bells or whistles, like mine does not. And on Mondays, my laundry day, I'm usually downstairs in my office working, and I get busy working, and then I forget that I have a load of laundry up there. And the next thing you know, it's 5 o'clock at night, and I haven't changed the clothes yet, and Monday laundry day becomes Tuesday laundry day, which is not a good thing to do. So I have to remember to set a timer for myself. Otherwise, I forget. Not washing your underwear with a bunch of colors, right? Or you end up with pink underwear. That's always a problem. So lots and lots of things. Excellent work, you guys. Perfect. How to roll socks. That's a hard skill for sure. Making time, just scheduling that in. So lots of great ideas. Let's think about some of these shopping related skills and the things that we can teach. So I'm seeing things like, simple things. Stay with the cart and the caregiver. Don't go running off, right? Absolutely. Being spatially aware, which particularly for some individuals with autism, they may have some difficulty just due to the nature of autism, understanding sort of where their cart is, where their body is, and where everything else is. And so they may accidentally be running into things, right? They're not trying to, but they're just not very aware of where everything is. And we might need to spend some extra time teaching them to sort of be a bit more aware and a bit more careful and learn to sort of know where all of those things are. Making lists, absolutely. A mental map of the grocery store. How many of you sit down and make your shopping list and you sort of think of where do things come as you go up and down the aisles and you make your list in about that order, right? I do. So thinking about those kinds of things. Budgeting and the idea of want versus need, that's an important thing. How to pay for your groceries. If you've got sensory needs, like maybe you need glasses or maybe you're going to wear headphones because the store is really loud. So thinking about that kind of preparation, I'm going to go to the grocery store. It is a bit assaulting on my senses, so I'm going to wear some glasses or some headphones so that it doesn't bother me, okay? Not putting everything you like and want in the cart, so sticking to your list for sure. The hidden rules around grocery shopping, like what are the polite things that you're supposed to do versus what are the things that you shouldn't do? How to wait in line and pay for your groceries. How to talk to the employees. How to ask someone where something is if you can't find it. How to pay, right? Those are important things. The budgeting aspect. Bagging, right? So lots of us will go through self-checkout or we'll be bagging our own groceries, and you don't want to put your soft, light items first and then your heavy items on top, like eggs should not be in the bottom and then lots of heavy stuff on top. That would not be good. We need to teach those things, right? Because if nobody's ever taught you, you don't necessarily know that, right? So lots of skills that we can be working on when we're thinking of those kinds of things. So that's really important to be thinking about, okay? So let's now start to move on. I've been getting you guys to do lots and lots of thinking, so thank you for playing along. You're not done yet. We'll be coming back and I'll be asking you to think some more. But what I want you to get out of sort of this task that we've been doing now for a while, where you've been looking at your child's day-to-day tasks and your own day-to-day tasks, and then sort of thinking about all of the individual skills involved, I'd like you to start thinking about tasks differently. So rather than just thinking about daily tasks as something that you have to finish, something that you have to get done and off your plate, really think about them as ways to teach your child, right? So every task that's happening during your day, see it as an opportunity for your child to participate with you in those tasks in a meaningful way, as opposed to just kind of like being there and maybe someone that you have to try to manage while you're doing tasks. See how you can involve them. And think about all of these tasks as potential opportunities for your child to learn skills, learn something that they're going to be able to take with them to their adult life, right? So remember, first thing this morning when I was talking about, what's the primary job of parents? And one of the primary jobs is to prepare your child to go off into the world as an adult. And while your child might need extra help to do that, your child might need ongoing support, you still want your child to be as independent as possible. So the more that you can involve your child into your daily tasks and help your child acquire skills through those daily tasks, the greater the likelihood that your child has more independence as an adult. So I really want to encourage you to always be kind of thinking about the long game. And I get that it's really hard to do that when you're sort of mired in the challenges of day-to-day life. And there are lots of challenges for parents, and I get it. But occasionally stop and sit back and kind of remember where you're headed, right? Because where you're headed comes really quickly. If you've got a young child right now, 18, 19, 20, 21 seems like a really long time away, right? But it comes up really quickly. If you've got a child who's in early adolescence, again, it seems like 21 is still a long ways away, but it does come up quite quickly. And I always feel badly for families when I encounter them and their child is now a young adult and they're not prepared. And now they're really scared about what's happening. And they don't kind of know what to do in terms of preparation. So I always encourage families, even of young kids, to sort of stop on occasion, sit back, sort of think about where we're headed long term. And then sort of think about, well, what are we doing today that's going to help my child in that long-term picture, right? What am I teaching my kid today that he'll be able to take with him through to adulthood, okay? So again, thinking as independent as possible. So we've been thinking about individual skills, and then how can we teach our child, right, doing daily tasks. Another way that you could think about this, and we're not going to go through this sort of task by task again, but if you already have a set of learning objectives for your child, you already have a set of skills, and maybe you have a home team working on those skills, like matching, like vocabulary, identifying common objects, following instructions, sequencing events, whatever. Maybe you've got an IEP at school. Next week, my colleague, Dr. Richard Stock, is going to be here talking about IEPs, so you'll be coming back to that. But maybe you've got an IEP for school where we're working on things like counting, making comparisons, measurement, reading labels, whatever it is that might be on your child's IEP. Look at those kinds of learning objectives and then think about, I don't want to sit with my kid at a table and work on academics, but how could I work on those same kinds of objectives when we're doing laundry, when we're cooking, when my child is playing with toys, when my child is showering? So think about how can you take those kinds of objectives that are on your child's learning plan, be that for early childhood or for school, and think about how you might bring those into day-to-day tasks that you're already doing. I don't want to see you spending your time trying to add more tasks to your already very full plates. I'd rather see you guys trying to fit your child into what you're already doing and address those kinds of skills without adding more work, okay? So think about that too. You can identify daily routines and think about what daily routines do you want to target. You can think about individual goals that you're working on in other areas and match those to your daily tasks, whichever way you kind of go about getting there. At the end of the day, you want to think, during the course of daily life, where are my child's learning opportunities and when can I sort of think about teaching my kids stuff, okay? And you might start with just one activity. I'm not sort of thinking or suggesting that you should jump in whole hog and from morning to night, 7 days a week, be constantly teaching your child, because that's probably not manageable, right? So you might just be picking one activity. I'm going to target dressing right now, or I'm going to target table setting right now, or we're going to work on matching while I fold the laundry, because that's something I do a few times a week because I've got kids and laundry and kids go together. So sort of pick something that's manageable for you and look at ways to involve your child in that and teach your child something, okay?